Okay, today is the fifth Sunday of Advent. Some only do 4 Sundays and others do 5. But on the first Sunday of Advent, we looked at prophecy and mainly looked at the conversation between the angel Gabriel and Mary and how Mary responded to it, and in fulfillment of the prophecy. And even during that, we found out, we looked at the prophecy of John the Baptist when he was going to be born and everything, and we know that that prophecy came true because we're told about it. Then the second week, was faith or hope. And I kind of focus more on the hope we have today of looking forward to Jesus' return and the faith that we have because we know it is going to be true. He is coming back one day. But the wise men are magi. They placed faith in prophecies because they had read and studied all sorts of different script books and whatever and studied the skies. And they followed the star. We don't know for how long they followed. It could have been 2 years. And at the end of that 2 years, when they came to where the star was, they did not know for sure they were going to find Jesus or the Messiah. But they had enough faith to trust the information they had to lead them into that journey of a long trip and actually find the Messiah that had been prophesied, that they had read about and studied about. And then 2 weeks ago, we looked at joy, and we studied the shepherds and the joy that they had. The angels appearing to them out of nowhere and saying, "Unto you is born a Savior in the city of David." And they went and found the baby, like we have here, lying in the manger, just like the angel said they would. And the joy they had when they were on their way back. They weren't trudging back to the fields. They were excited. Anybody they saw, they told them what had happened. And they were happy, they had joy because of the visit from the angels. And they found it exactly like the angel said. Then last week, was the candle of peace. And I talked about the peace of Joseph. Because the story goes, at first he was worried and nervous, and he was thinking about divorcing Mary. Because at that time, for an unwed woman to be pregnant, today it's not so bad, which is unfortunate, but back at that time, it was a scandalous thing for an unwed woman to be pregnant, or even one that was engaged, because it was signs that she wasn't faithful, or maybe they weren't observing the rules of the betrothal program. But Joseph had a vision, had a dream, and the angel told him, don't be afraid, do not worry. This is from the Holy Spirit. And after that, he got up, he had peace. He did what the angel told him. And he had a peace with that decision. Mary experienced peace because in her conversation with the angel, before the angel left, she said, here I am. Use me as you see fit. I don't understand it, but I am the Lord's servant. And now, we normally, as a matter of fact, Jonathan, Dakota, Ashton, would y'all please come forward? Two of y'all get over there, and one of you join me over here. And pick up the candle very carefully, and come over here to this white one, and we'll light it up. Okay. And blow these out. Okay.
Blow it out, Dakota.
Okay, thank you. Y'all can go back down now. Okay. Now we're talking about, now today, light. Jesus is the light of the world, is what we're looking at. And Jesus' birth was this last Wednesday that we celebrated. We don't know the exact date, but that's December 25th is what we have said. And John 8 in verse 12, I'm not going to even turn there. But this is after Jesus is up, he's starting his ministry. Then spake Jesus again unto them, saying, I am the light of the world. He that followeth me shall not walk in darkness, but shall have the light of life. As we follow Jesus, we have his light. And all throughout the birth narrative that we've looked at, there are references to light. From the prophecy of him being the light of the world and everything. Like I said earlier, the wise man followed a star. Now, and that was a light. And it was designed by God. In Genesis chapter 1, 14 through 19, where it's going through the creation story, in verses 16 and 17, God created the stars to rule with the moon through the night, to provide light. So God guided the wise men to Jesus. And then when the shepherds saw the angels in the fields, they were surrounded by the glory of God. And it shone all around them. Now imagine, you're out in the field, somewhere way away from any cities we have, any modern cities we have. And if you've ever been in those areas, it is dark. But you have some light provided by the moon and the stars. And if you have a little campfire going, that gives you a little bit of light. Okay, but then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a bright white light that is so pure and clear It doesn't blind you, but it shines. Everything is lit up. And that is the glory of God. Everything shines. And you're not blinded by it. Now, making a connection back into the Old Testament, Moses had the same experience during the Exodus and the children of Israel. In Exodus chapter 33, verses 17 and 18, and again, I'm not going to have you turn there for the sake of time and everything, but it's talking about the glory of God that Moses had, and Moses saw. Moses came down off of the mountain. This is Mount Sinai. And he received a second copy of the Ten Commandments. Okay. And we are told in Exodus 33 that Moses had asked to see God. And God said, no man can see me face to face. But however, here's what I'm going to do. There's a rock over here I'm going to have you go stand on it. And then I'm going to hide you in the cleft of it as I go by. And God used his hand to shield Moses. And the only thing Moses was able to see of God was after God had passed by and saw the light coming behind him. And so when he came down off that mountain, the Bible says his face was glowing. The skin of his face was glowing, was shining. And it was such a profound change that the children of Israel were afraid. And Moses didn't know it at the time when he first came down. But they told him. His face shone with the glory of God. And what Moses would do, we're told, in Exodus 34, is he put on a veil to cover his face, because the radiance coming off his face was so much for the Israelites. But whenever he went in to speak to God, he would take the veil off, go in, talk to God, then come out, and his face would be radiant again, and he would tell them what God said. And then he put the covering back on. And even before God did that to Moses, he guided the children of Israel with light. At the start of the Exodus, he guided them with a pillar of cloud by day, and then a pillar of fire at night. He used the light of the fire to guide them. And it applies the same to us today. The Bible instructs us to use God's light and to be his light. The Bible is our light. As we're told in the Psalms, 119 verse 105, Thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. We are to read the Bible. And by reading the Bible, we are told how to walk and where to walk. And it shows us, it lights the way for us. And we're also the church, and each one of us today are to be God's light to the world. 2 Corinthians chapter 4 and verse 6. Paul writes, "For God, who commanded the light to shine out of darkness, has shined in our hearts to give the light of the knowledge of the glory of God in the face of Jesus Christ." So how do we get the light? By reading the Bible, by trusting in God. And that light that we get is the glory of God. And we go into the world presenting that light, that glory of God to the world. We're to walk as children of light. Ephesians 5:8. Again, this is Paul writing to us. "For ye were sometimes darkness, but now are ye light in the Lord. Walk as children of light." What he's saying there is, before we became Christians, we were sinners. And we had this darkness of sin in our soul. Sometimes it would present light, but we still had darkness. But now that we are Christians, we have the light all the time. And we walk as children. And what he's saying and telling us is to study the Scriptures and learn the Scriptures and be the ones telling others. And then John the Baptist, even though when we first talk about him, he's just John. John the Baptist has been added to distinguish him from the disciple John and other Johns of the Bible. But just like John the Baptist was calling out in the wilderness, "Prepare ye the way of the Lord, make its paths straight." We are to be the exact same way. We are to be the ones in the wilderness calling out the exact same thing. The message has not changed. And we need to be doing this because of the prophecies that we have in the Bible that Jesus is going to return one day. We don't know when, but he will return. And we are to have the faith and hope of the wise men. Like I said, we don't know when Jesus is going to return, but he will return. He is going to return. The only thing is, this time, he is not coming back as a little baby, like it's here on the table. He is going to come back in all of his righteousness and glory. And we need to have the joy of the shepherds. We need to tell everybody, even though we haven't seen Jesus face to face yet, but we are told that Jesus is going to come back. So we, as disciples, as children of the light of Jesus, we need to be going out, preaching and teaching. Jesus is going to come back one day. And telling everybody, from the highest of the high down to the lowest of the low, everybody. And then we also need to be at peace. Like Joseph and Mary. They didn't understand fully the whole situation, but they followed what they were told, and they were at peace with it. Just like we don't fully comprehend Jesus and everything he does and how he's going to return and when he's going to return. But we do know he will return. And we get the peace by obeying God. And what does God tell us to do? He tells us to go out into the world, to be of the world but not in the world, to go out, be the light of Jesus in his return. We are to be the light, pointing the way. The church is to be the light. To the world of teaching and preaching and making disciples of people. We are to be the light out in the darkness of the world, saying, make way, Jesus is coming. Make his path straight. Come to Jesus, all who are weary and heavy laden, and he will give you rest. And so we are the light of Jesus until his return. Then once Jesus returns, everybody that believes in Jesus will be able to see him and celebrate his coming and being able to commune with him one-on-one. And so as we close out the message today, all the songs we sang, if you can remember, they were about sending the light or being the light. They were reminders to us, instructions to us to be the light. Now, if you want to join our fellowship or become a Christian, I'll be standing down front waiting to receive you. And if you have anything you want to pray about, the altar is open. As we get ready to close out this year and open up a new year. What a glorious way to start. Being a member of the light of Christ.
Number 371.
So please come.